The late afternoon sun beat down mercilessly on the asphalt parking lot of St. Mary's Regional Hospital in Phoenix, Arizona. The temperature gauge on the hospital's digital display read 104 degrees Celsius, and the heat shimmered off the pavement in visible waves. Marcus Chen wiped the sweat from his forehead with the back of his grease-stained hand, leaving a dark smudge across his temple. His 2003 Ford F-150 had chosen the worst possible moment to die. The truck sat silent and defeated in the hospital's emergency entrance, its hood propped open like a gaping mouth. Marcus had managed to coast it to the side of the circular driveway, just out of the way of the ambulance bay, before the engine gave its final shudder. "Come on, baby, not now," Marcus muttered, peering into the engine compartment. The smell of burnt oil and overheated metal filled his nostrils. He'd been driving to pick up his daughter Emma from volleyball practice when the truck started making that grinding noise. Then came the warning lights, one after another, illuminating his dashboard like a Christmas tree. He'd barely made it to the hospital parking lot before everything shut down. Marcus pulled out his phone and checked the time. 4:47 p.m. Emma's practice ended at 5. He had maybe 10 minutes to figure this out, or he'd have to call his ex-wife Jennifer to pick her up. That conversation was one he desperately wanted to avoid. Jennifer had been on his case for months about getting a newer vehicle, and this breakdown would just give her more ammunition. The automatic doors of the emergency room whooshed open periodically, releasing blasts of air conditioning that felt like heaven for a brief moment before the desert heat swallowed them up. Medical staff in scrubs hurried in and out, casting curious glances at Marcus and his disabled truck. A security guard had already stopped by twice to ask if he needed help moving the vehicle. "Just give me a few minutes," Marcus had told him both times. "I'm a mechanic. I'll have it running soon." That wasn't entirely true. Marcus was a warehouse foreman at a distribution center, but he'd grown up helping his father fix cars in their garage back in Sacramento. He knew enough to diagnose common problems, even if he didn't have the tools or parts to fix them right now. He traced the serpentine belt with his finger, checking for cracks or looseness. Everything looked intact. The battery connections were tight. The oil level was low but not critical. Marcus cursed under his breath. Without proper diagnostic equipment, he was just guessing. A paramedic wheeled a gurney past him, the wheels clattering over the concrete. An elderly woman lay strapped to it, an oxygen mask over her face. Marcus stepped aside to give them room, his hands still covered in engine grime. His phone buzzed. "Emma. Dad, where are you? Practice is over." "Hey, sweetie. I'm having truck trouble. I'm at St. Mary's Hospital parking lot. Can you get Coach Williams to drop you off? I'm right by the ER entrance." There was a pause. "Are you okay? Why are you at the hospital?" "I'm fine. The truck just died here. It's the closest place I could coast to. I'm trying to fix it now." "Okay. Coach is still here. I'll ask her. See you in like 15 minutes. "Thanks, Em. Love you." "Love you too, Dad." Marcus pocketed his phone and returned his attention to the engine. He jiggled various connections, checked hoses, and tried to think through what could cause a complete shutdown like this. The starter, the alternator, something in the fuel system. He turned the key again. Nothing. Not even a clicking sound. Complete silence, except for the ambient noise of the hospital entrance. Sirens in the distance, conversations, the hydraulic hiss of the automatic doors. A nurse emerged from the ER, her blue scrubs dark with sweat stains despite the air conditioning inside. She was young, maybe late 20s, with her dark hair pulled back in a practical ponytail. She walked quickly toward the parking lot, scanning the area. Marcus barely noticed her. He was focused on checking the fuse box under the dashboard, contorting himself into an awkward position with his head below the steering wheel. "Excuse me," the nurse called out. "Sir!" Marcus assumed she was calling someone else. Hospital staff had been coming and going constantly. "Sir, with the truck." Her voice was more urgent now. Marcus pulled himself out from under the dash and turned. The nurse was running toward him now, her face flushed and eyes wide. "Are you Marcus Chen?" she asked breathlessly. A cold feeling washed over Marcus despite the intense heat. "Yes, I'm Marcus Chen. What's wrong?" "Your daughter, Emma Chen. She's inside. She collapsed during volleyball practice. The coach brought her in about 20 minutes ago." The world seemed to tilt. Marcus grabbed the truck's doorframe to steady himself. "What? No, I just talked to her. She said practice was over. She was getting a ride from her coach." "Please, you need to come with me now," the nurse said, her professional composure cracking slightly. "She's in the ER." Marcus's mind raced. This couldn't be right. Emma was healthy. She was 16, an athlete, never sick a day in her life beyond the occasional cold. He'd just spoken to her 2 minutes ago. "There must be some mistake," Marcus said, even as he started following the nurse toward the entrance. "I just talked to my daughter on the phone." The nurse's expression was grave. "Mr. Chen, Emma's phone was in her bag. The coach has been trying to reach you. When did you last speak to someone?" Marcus pulled out his phone, his hands shaking. He looked at the call log. The last call from Emma was from 3 days ago. The recent call he thought he'd just finished. He looked at the screen in confusion. There was no recent call. Had he imagined it? The heat? The stress? They pushed through the automatic doors into the blessed coolness of the ER. The antiseptic smell hit Marcus immediately, mixed with the underlying sense of illness and fear that seemed to permeate every emergency room. "This way," the nurse said, leading him past the triage desk and through a set of double doors marked "Authorized Personnel Only." The ER was a controlled chaos of activity. Monitors beeped, overhead announcements crackled, and medical staff moved with purposeful urgency. The nurse led Marcus down a corridor lined with curtained bays. "She's in Bay 7, the nurse said. "The doctor will—" A commotion erupted from one of the bays ahead. Marcus heard a loud, sustained beep that he recognized from medical shows as a flatline. His heart hammered in his chest. "Code Blue, Bay 7! Code Blue, Bay 7!" A voice shouted over the intercom. "Bay 7! Emma's Bay!" The nurse grabbed Marcus's arm, but he was already running. He burst through the curtain to see a scene that would haunt him forever. His daughter, lying motionless on a gurney, her volleyball uniform still on, her long dark hair spread across the white pillow. Her skin had a greyish pallor that looked wrong. So wrong. A team of medical staff surrounded her. A doctor was performing chest compressions, while another prepared a defibrillator. A third was squeezing an ambu bag connected to a mask over Emma's face. "Clear!" the doctor shouted. Marcus watched in horror as Emma's body jerked with the electric shock. The monitor showed a brief flicker of activity, then returned to that terrible, steady tone. "Again, charging to 200, clear!" Another shock, another jerk of his daughter's lifeless body. A nurse spotted Marcus and tried to guide him out. "Sir, you need to wait outside." "That's my daughter!" Marcus roared, struggling against the nurse's grip. "Emma! Emma, baby, wake up!" "Mr. Chen, please let them work," another nurse said, this one older and more commanding. "The best thing you can do right now is let them do their job." "Charging to 300, the doctor said grimly. "This is the last one before we start epi." Marcus felt his knees buckle. The older nurse caught him and helped him to a chair just outside the bay. He could still see through the gap in the curtain. Could still see his daughter's hand hanging limply off the side of the gurney, her fingers slightly curled. Those were the hands that used to grab his finger when she was a baby. The hands that made him Father's Day cards covered in glitter. The hands that just last week had helped him change the oil in that damned truck. "Clear!" The third shock. Marcus closed his eyes and prayed to a God he hadn't spoken to since his own father's funeral 5 years ago. The monitor beeped once. Twice, then settled into an irregular but present rhythm. "We've got sinus rhythm," someone announced. "Pulse is weak but present." Marcus opened his eyes. The furious activity around Emma's bed had shifted from desperate to urgently focused. They were still working, but the atmosphere had changed from fighting death to fighting for stability. Get her to ICU now, the doctor ordered. I want a full tox screen, CT, MRI, everything. Move! The nurse finally released her grip on Marcus's shoulders. He stumbled toward the gurney as they began wheeling it out. He managed to grab Emma's hand for just a moment. It was cold. So cold. I'm here, baby, he whispered. Dad's here. They wheeled her away quickly, the gurney's wheels squeaking on the linoleum floor. Marcus followed until they pushed through another set of double doors that he wasn't allowed past. A nurse positioned herself gently but firmly in his path. Mr. Chen, you can't go beyond this point. They're taking her to intensive care. Someone will come talk to you shortly about her condition. Marcus stood there, staring at the doors his daughter had disappeared through, his mind refusing to process what he'd just witnessed. His hands were still covered in engine grease. There was a smudge of oil on Emma's volleyball uniform where he'd touched her hand. Behind him, through the ER entrance, he could see his broken-down truck through the glass doors, still sitting there with its hood up, completely forgotten. None of that mattered now. Nothing mattered except Emma. The nurse guided him to a small waiting room, painted in that particular shade of healthcare blue-green that was supposed to be calming, but just felt sterile and cold. A TV mounted in the corner was playing the evening news on mute. Someone will be with you soon, the nurse said softly. Can I get you some water? Marcus shook his head. He couldn't speak. He sat down in one of the uncomfortable plastic chairs and put his head in his hands. His phone buzzed. A text from Jennifer. Where's Emma? She's not answering her phone. Marcus stared at the message, trying to figure out how to respond, how to put into words what he'd just seen. His fingers hovered over the keyboard, then dropped. He couldn't do this by text. He called her instead. Marcus, what's going on? Jennifer's voice had that edge of annoyance that had become so familiar during the final years of their marriage. Jen. His voice cracked. You need to come to St. Mary's Hospital. Now. The annoyance vanished instantly. What happened? Are you hurt? It's Emma, Marcus said, and then the words tumbled out in a rush. She collapsed at practice. They brought her to the ER. Her heart stopped, Jen. She died on the table. They brought her back, but I'm on my way, Jennifer said, and the line went dead. Marcus sat in that waiting room, still covered in engine grease, and waited for someone to tell him whether his daughter would wake up. The intensive care waiting room at St. Mary's Hospital was designed to accommodate vigils. Marcus had been sitting in the same chair for 2 hours now, watching the sky outside the window transition from the burnt orange of sunset to the deep purple of evening. Phoenix's city lights began to twinkle in the distance, and somewhere out there, life was continuing normally for people who hadn't watched their child die and come back. Jennifer had arrived within 45 minutes of his call, her face pale and makeup smeared from crying during the drive. She'd barely looked at Marcus before demanding to see Emma. A nurse had taken them both to the ICU, where they'd been allowed a brief 5-minute visit. Emma lay in a bed surrounded by machines, each one monitoring a different aspect of her tenuous grip on life. Tubes ran from her arms, her chest, even her mouth. The ventilator breathed for her with a mechanical whoosh click that Marcus knew he'd hear in his nightmares forever. Her face was slack, expressionless, as if she were simply sleeping deeply, but there was something profoundly wrong about the stillness, the complete absence of the tiny movements that marked a sleeping person as alive and dreaming. The next 24 hours are critical, Dr. Rashmi Patel had told them in the corridor outside Emma's room. She was a slight woman in her 40s, with kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. We've stabilized her physically, but we won't know the extent of neurological damage until she regains consciousness. If she regains consciousness. What do you mean, if? Jennifer had demanded, her voice rising. She's 16 years old. Healthy. This doesn't just happen. Mrs. Chen. Ms. Morrison. Jennifer corrected sharply. I took back my maiden name. Ms. Morrison, Dr. Patel continued patiently. We're running every test we can think of. The preliminary tox screen came back negative for common drugs and alcohol. We're waiting on more comprehensive results. The CT scan showed some swelling in her brain, which we're managing with medication. But until we know what caused the cardiac arrest, we're treating symptoms rather than the underlying cause. Cardiac arrest? Marcus had repeated numbly. But she's an athlete. She had a physical 3 months ago. They cleared her for sports. Sometimes these things don't show up in routine physicals, Dr. Patel explained. It could be an undiagnosed heart condition, an arrhythmia that only manifests under stress. It could be a dozen different things. We'll know more when all the test results come back. That had been 90 minutes ago. Now Marcus and Jennifer sat in the waiting room, the earlier crisis having given way to the grinding, exhausting reality of uncertainty. Other families occupied other corners of the waiting room, each lost in their own private anguish. Jennifer had called her husband, Richard, who'd offered to come but had been told to wait. Jennifer's mother was on a flight from Seattle and would arrive sometime around midnight. Marcus had called his supervisor to say he wouldn't be at work tomorrow, or possibly for several days. His boss had been understanding. The truck was still in the ER parking lot, hood up, completely forgotten. "This is your fault," Jennifer said suddenly, breaking the silence that had stretched between them. Marcus looked up from his hands. "What?" "You and that piece of junk truck," Jennifer continued, her voice low but venomous. "If you'd had a reliable vehicle, you would have picked her up on time. She would have been with you instead of staying late at practice. Whatever happened wouldn't have happened." Marcus felt anger flare in his chest, hot and immediate. "That's not fair, Jen. You can't what? Can't blame you for being cheap, for always cutting corners. I told you 6 months ago that truck was dangerous. I told you to get something newer, safer. But no, Marcus Chen always knows best. I was supposed to pick her up at 5, Marcus said through gritted teeth. Practice ended at 5. The coach kept them late. That's not on me." "Everything is on you!" Jennifer's voice rose, drawing glances from other families in the waiting room. "You think you're such a great father, but you're always working late, always too busy, always—" "I work late so I can pay child support and rent, and still have enough to take Emma out to dinner once a week," Marcus interrupted. "I work late because you got the house and I got a studio apartment that I'm still trying to furnish. Don't you dare question whether I'm a good father." Jennifer's face crumpled, the anger collapsing into raw grief. I'm sorry. I can't." "Marcus, what if she doesn't wake up?" The question hung in the air between them. It was the fear they'd both been avoiding, the possibility too terrible to acknowledge. "She'll wake up," Marcus said, trying to sound certain. "She's strong. She's a fighter." "You don't know that," Jennifer whispered. "The doctor said there could be brain damage. What if she wakes up but she's not Emma anymore? What if she can't walk or talk or—" "Stop," Marcus said firmly. "We can't think like that. We have to believe she's going to be okay." A young couple entered the waiting room, the woman heavily pregnant and clutching her belly. They looked scared and spoke in rapid Spanish to the receptionist. Marcus wondered what emergency had brought them here, what crisis they were facing. The world was full of suffering, he realized. St. Mary's Hospital never slept because tragedy and illness never took a break. Jennifer's phone rang. She looked at the screen and answered. "Hi, Mom." "Yes, I'm here, with Marcus." Okay, I'll see you then." She hung up. "My mother's plane landed early. She's getting a rental car and heading straight here." Marcus nodded. He'd always gotten along well with Jennifer's mother, Louise. She was a retired schoolteacher with a practical streak and a warm heart. She'd been devastated when Marcus and Jennifer divorced, but had never taken sides. "I should call Emma's friends," Jennifer said, more to herself than to Marcus. "They need to know. But what do I tell them? What do I say?" "Tell them the truth," Marcus suggested, "that she collapsed, that she's in ICU, that we're waiting for more information." Jennifer pulled out her phone and started scrolling through contacts. Her fingers trembled as she typed. Marcus watched her, remembering when those hands used to reach for his, when they were a team facing the world together. The divorce had been necessary. They'd grown in different directions, wanted different things, fought constantly. But sitting here now, united in fear for their daughter, he felt the ghost of what they'd once had. Dr. Patel emerged from the secure doors that led to the ICU. Both Marcus and Jennifer jumped to their feet. "Is there news?" Jennifer asked urgently. "Is she awake?" "No change in her condition," Dr. Patel said. "But I wanted to update you on the test results we've received so far. Can we talk privately?" They followed her to a small consultation room off the main waiting area. It had a table, 4 chairs, and a box of tissues on the table, never a good sign. "We've completed most of the imaging and blood work," Dr. Patel began once they were seated. "The good news is that we haven't found any structural heart abnormalities. Her heart appears physically normal." "Then what caused the cardiac arrest?" Marcus asked. "That's what we're still trying to determine," Dr. Patel said carefully. "We did find something concerning in her blood work. Emma's potassium levels are dangerously low. Hypokalemia can cause cardiac arrhythmias and, in severe cases, cardiac arrest." "Low potassium?" Jennifer repeated incredulously. "You're telling me our daughter nearly died from low potassium? That doesn't make sense. She eats healthy. I make sure she eats bananas, vegetables. The level of hypokalemia we're seeing doesn't typically happen from diet alone," Dr. Patel interrupted gently. "It suggests there might be an underlying condition causing her body to lose potassium or not absorb it properly. It could be a kidney problem, an endocrine issue, or—" She paused, and Marcus felt his stomach drop at her hesitation. "Or what?" he demanded. "Or it could be intentional," Dr. Patel said quietly. "Emma's age group sometimes engages in behaviors that can cause electrolyte imbalances. Disordered eating, excessive exercise, use of diuretics or laxatives." "No," Jennifer said immediately. "Absolutely not. Emma doesn't have an eating disorder. She's confident, she's healthy, she loves her body." "I'm not making accusations," Dr. Patel said calmly. "I'm listing possibilities, but I do need to ask, have either of you noticed any changes in Emma's eating habits? Weight loss? Excessive concern about her appearance?" Marcus tried to think back over the past few months. He saw Emma once or twice a week, usually for dinner and maybe a movie or activity. Had she been eating normally? He realized with a sinking feeling that he couldn't remember. When they went out to eat, did she finish her meals? Order salads instead of burgers? He'd been so focused on making their limited time together fun that he hadn't been paying attention to details like that. "She's always been thin," Jennifer said defensively. "She's an athlete. She has to watch her weight for volleyball." "Watching weight and engaging in dangerous behaviors are very different things," Dr. Patel said. "I'm going to recommend we have a psychiatrist evaluate her when she wakes up. In the meantime, we're correcting her electrolyte imbalance intravenously and monitoring her heart rhythm closely." "When will she wake up?" Marcus asked. "You keep saying when she wakes up, but nobody's giving us a time frame." "Doctor." Patel's expression was sympathetic but honest. "I wish I could give you one. Sometimes with cases like this, patients wake up within hours. Sometimes it takes days. Very rarely they don't wake up at all. We're doing everything we can to support her body and give her brain time to heal. The rest is up to Emma." After Dr. Patel left, Marcus and Jennifer sat in silence. The walls of the consultation room felt like they were closing in. "I would know if she had an eating disorder," Jennifer said finally. "I'm her mother. I live with her. I would know." But there was doubt in her voice now, a creeping uncertainty. Marcus recognized it because he felt it too. How well did they really know Emma? She was 16, navigating the treacherous waters of adolescence. She had a whole life at school, with friends online that neither of them fully saw. "Maybe we should look at her phone," Marcus suggested hesitantly. "I have her phone," Jennifer said. "The coach gave it to me with her bag, but I can't unlock it. I don't know her passcode." "Does she have a diary? A laptop? Anything that might give us insight into what she's been thinking or feeling?" Jennifer nodded slowly. She has a laptop at home. But Marcus, going through her things, it feels like such a violation. She's in a coma, Marcus said bluntly. I think we're past worrying about privacy. They returned to the waiting room to find Jennifer's mother, Louise, had arrived. She was a small woman in her early 60s, her grey hair cut in a practical bob. She embraced Jennifer first, then Marcus. Have you seen her? Louise asked. Yes, but she's not conscious, Jennifer said, fresh tears starting. Mom, they think she might have an eating disorder. Louise's face showed surprise, then concern. Emma, are you sure? The doctor said it's one possibility, Marcus clarified. They found low potassium levels that could indicate a lot of different things. Has she been talking about her weight? Louise asked Jennifer. Or dieting? No more than any teenage girl, Jennifer said defensively. Then, less certainly, I don't think so. But apparently I don't know my own daughter as well as I thought. Louise took her daughter's hands. Don't do that. Don't blame yourself for things you might not have been able to prevent. Right now, we focus on Emma getting better. Everything else we'll deal with when she wakes up. The certainty in Louise's voice, when she wakes up, not if, felt like a lifeline. Marcus wanted to believe it was true. A nurse came out to tell them they could visit Emma again, one at a time for 10 minutes each. Jennifer went first. When she came back, her eyes were red, but her face was composed. Your turn, she told Marcus. Marcus walked through the secure doors and down the corridor to Emma's room. The ICU was quieter than the ER had been, but no less intense. Every patient was fighting for their life in their own way. Emma looked exactly as she had 2 hours ago, pale, still, surrounded by machines. Marcus pulled a chair up beside her bed and took her cold hand in his. Hey, kiddo, he said softly. It's Dad. I'm here. Mum's here too, and Grandma Louise just arrived. The ventilator breathed for her. The monitors beeped steadily. I'm sorry about the truck, Marcus continued, feeling ridiculous but needing to talk. You were right. I should have gotten something more reliable. But you know what? None of that matters. The truck doesn't matter. Work doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is you getting better and coming home. He studied her face, looking for any sign of awareness. Her eyelids didn't flutter. Her fingers didn't squeeze his hand. Nothing. I need you to fight, Emma, Marcus said, his voice breaking. I need you to be strong. Whatever happened, whatever you're dealing with, we'll get through it together. But you have to wake up first. You have to come back to us. A nurse came in to check Emma's vitals. She smiled kindly at Marcus. You can talk to her as much as you want. Some people believe they can hear us, even when they're unconscious. Do you believe that? Marcus asked. The nurse adjusted one of the IV bags. I've been doing this for 15 years. I've seen people wake up and describe conversations that happened while they were out. So yeah, I believe it. After his 10 minutes were up, Marcus returned to the waiting room. The night stretched ahead of them, long and uncertain. Louise had brought coffee from the cafeteria, which had closed, but she'd charmed the cleaning staff into letting her use the machine. They settled into the uncomfortable chairs, each lost in their own thoughts and fears. The TV played on, still muted. Other families came and went. A code blue was called for a different room, and Marcus found himself tensing until he confirmed it wasn't Emma's room. Around 2 in the morning, Louise dozed off in her chair. Jennifer stared at her phone, scrolling through photos of Emma, smiling, healthy, alive. Marcus watched the doors to the ICU as if he could will someone to come out with good news through sheer force of concentration. Dr. Patel had said the next 24 hours were critical. They'd barely survived 4 hours, 20 more to go before they'd know anything definitive. Marcus thought about his truck in the parking lot, its hood still up, completely useless. He thought about how he'd been lying on his back under that dashboard, concerned about blown fuses and dead batteries, while his daughter was already in the ER, her heart stopping. He thought about the strange phone call he'd imagined having with Emma, his mind's desperate attempt to deny the reality that was unfolding. He pulled out his own phone and looked at Emma's contact information. The last real message from her was from 3 days ago. "Can you pick me up at 5 on Wednesday? Coach is running a longer practice." He'd replied, "Sure thing. See you then." Such a simple exchange, such a normal moment. How was he supposed to know it would lead to this? Jennifer's phone buzzed. She looked at it, then at Marcus. It's Emma's best friend, Maya. She's asking if she can visit tomorrow. "What did you tell people?" Marcus asked. "Just that Emma was in the hospital and we'd update them when we knew more," Jennifer said. "But word is getting around. I have about 50 messages asking what happened." "Let them come," Marcus decided. "Tomorrow, I mean. When visiting hours start. Emma should be surrounded by people who love her." Jennifer nodded. "I'll text Maya back." The night crept forward, minute by minute. Nurses did their rounds, checking on patients every hour. At 4 a.m., they were allowed another brief visit. Emma's condition was unchanged. At 6 a.m., Dr. Patel returned, looking tired but alert. "The comprehensive tox screen came back," she said without preamble. "We found traces of a substance called Ipecac in her system." "What's Ipecac?" Marcus asked. "It's a syrup that induces vomiting," Dr. Patel explained. "It used to be kept in homes for poison emergencies, but it's rarely used now because it can be dangerous. In large doses or with repeated use, it can cause severe electrolyte imbalances and cardiac problems." Jennifer's face went white. "You're saying Emma made herself throw up? On purpose?" "The presence of Ipecac strongly suggests intentional use," Dr. Patel said gently. "Combined with the severe hypokalemia and her age, it paints a picture of an eating disorder, most likely bulimia nervosa." The words hit Marcus like a physical blow. Bulimia. His bright, beautiful, athletic daughter had been secretly battling an eating disorder severe enough to stop her heart. "How did we not see this?" Jennifer whispered. "How did we miss something so serious?" "Eating disorders are often very well hidden," Dr. Patel said. "Patients become skilled at concealing their behaviors. It's not your fault." But Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that it was his fault, at least partially. He'd been so focused on his own life, his own struggles after the divorce, that he'd missed what Emma was going through. "What happens now?" he asked hoarsely. "Now, we continue to support her physically and wait for her to wake up," Dr. Patel said. "When she does, she'll need extensive treatment, both medical and psychological. Bulimia is a serious mental illness, but it's treatable." After Dr. Patel left, Marcus and Jennifer sat in stunned silence. The sunrise began to color the sky outside the window, painting it in shades of pink and orange. A new day was beginning, but Marcus felt trapped in the nightmare of the previous evening. "I failed her," Jennifer said quietly. "I was so busy trying to be the perfect mom, making sure she ate vegetables and did her homework and got to practice on time. But I didn't see what she was actually going through." "We both failed her," Marcus said, "but we get a chance to make it right. When she wakes up, we'll get her the help she needs." "If she wakes up," Jennifer corrected bitterly. "The doctor keeps saying when, but we all know it's really if." Marcus didn't argue because he knew she was right. They were 14 hours into the critical 24-hour window, and Emma hadn't stirred once. Louise woke up, stiff from sleeping in the chair. When they told her what Dr. Patel had said, she closed her eyes briefly, then pulled both Marcus and Jennifer into a hug. "That poor girl," Louise murmured, "suffering all alone." At 8 a.m., visiting hours officially began. Emma's friends started arriving. Maya, Sophie, and 3 other girls from the volleyball team. They were all crying, clutching flowers and cards. Jennifer took them to see Emma 2 at a time. When Maya came out, her face was puffy from crying. "Is she going to be okay?" she asked Marcus. "We hope so," Marcus said honestly. Did Emma ever talk to you about being unhappy with her body? About dieting or anything like that?" Maya's eyes widened. "Why? What does that have to do with... Please, Maya, Marcus said. This is important. Anything you can tell us might help. Maya looked torn, loyalty to her friend warring with the urgency of the situation. Finally, she spoke quietly. She started talking about wanting to lose weight a few months ago, before volleyball tryouts. She said she needed to be lighter to jump higher. I told her she didn't need to lose weight, but what? Marcus prompted gently. But she got kind of obsessed with it, Maya admitted. She started counting calories on her phone. She'd skip lunch sometimes or just eat an apple. And after we'd get pizza on Fridays, I noticed she'd always go to the bathroom right after. I asked her if she was okay once, and she got really defensive. Said I was imagining things. Marcus felt sick. The signs had been there, people had noticed, but everyone had let it slide, convinced themselves it wasn't their business or wasn't serious enough to worry about. Thank you for telling me, Marcus said. That helps us understand what she's been going through. After the friends left, Marcus felt the weight of guilt settle even heavier on his shoulders. He should have seen it. He should have known. At noon, 20 hours into the critical window, Dr. Patel came out again. There's some brain activity on the EEG that we weren't seeing before, she said. It's a good sign. It means her brain is starting to wake up. Does that mean she'll regain consciousness soon? Jennifer asked hopefully. It's a step in the right direction, Dr. Patel said carefully, but I don't want to give you false hope. The next few hours will tell us more. Those next few hours passed with agonizing slowness. Marcus paced the waiting room, unable to sit still. Jennifer checked her phone constantly, as if news might arrive by text. Louise prayed silently, her lips moving as her fingers worked through rosary beads. At 2 p.m., 22 hours into the critical window, Marcus was standing by the window looking out at the Phoenix skyline when Jennifer gasped. She moved, Jennifer said, staring at her phone. A nurse had texted her. Emma moved her hand. They said she moved her hand. They rushed to the ICU, where Dr. Patel was already at Emma's bedside. As they watched, Emma's eyelids fluttered. Her fingers twitched. The ventilator whooshed, but Emma's chest hitched slightly, as if she were trying to breathe on her own. Emma? Dr. Patel said clearly. Emma, can you hear me? If you can hear me, squeeze my hand. A long moment passed. Then, so faint they almost missed it, Emma's fingers curled around Dr. Patel's hand. Jennifer burst into tears. Marcus felt his own eyes fill. After 22 hours of uncertainty, Emma was coming back to them. It took another hour for Emma to fully regain consciousness. The breathing tube was removed, making her cough and gag. When her eyes finally opened and focused on her surroundings, she looked confused and frightened. "Mom!" she croaked, her voice hoarse. "Dad! What happened?" Marcus moved to her bedside, taking her hand. "You collapsed at practice, sweetheart. You're in the hospital. But you're going to be okay." Emma's eyes filled with tears. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I'm so sorry." "Shh," Jennifer soothed, smoothing Emma's hair back. "Don't apologize. Just rest. We'll talk about everything later. Right now, just rest." Emma's eyes drifted closed again, but this time it was natural sleep rather than the terrifying stillness of unconsciousness. Her chest rose and fell on its own. The monitors showed stable vital signs. They'd made it through the critical 24 hours. Emma had woken up, but Marcus knew this was just the beginning. The real work of healing, physical and mental, was still ahead of them.